Hello, and welcome to the Improv Network podcast. I am your host, Bob Wick, and joining us today is my friend, Oliver Georgiou. I felt like I was going to mispronounce it. You saw him. I know I'm not going to miss. Did I get it?
It's just anxiety, Bob. It's just anxiety.
It's always anxiety. I am the rare improviser who's only confident on stage.
That's not too rare, actually. Yeah, a lot of people feel like at their realist when on stage. So
I agree. Today's topic, we're going to talk about what are we going to talk about, Oliver?
We're going to talk about getting in trouble.
Getting in trouble.
Getting in trouble. Because I found for me it was a very freeing thing once I figured out how to do it and allowed myself to do it.
Awesome. I love this. I love this so much. Before we get started, a couple quick announcements. Again, we have changed our name to the Improv Network Podcast. New name, new skin. You see all that box around us? And tomorrow night, we're going to have a special roundtable, an introduction to the Improv Network. It's going to be at 7:00 p.m. right here, so tune in. We're going to have basically the whole structure of the Improv Network talking to us. We're going to have a lot of cool people. We're going to talk improv. We're going to talk about the future and about the network itself. So that's going to be really cool. Come check it out. That's my plug.
Nice. That's a good plug.
Thank you. I know it feels weird without James here, but like we have no music or anything. He's got to teach me how to use this one day. Yeah, kind of threw me off. I am conditioned, sir. So how you been, man?
Good. Yeah. I've been fine, hanging out in ye old Windsor, Ontario.
All right.
Right across from Detroit, in case you figured that out. I've got these wonderful pots to keep me company. Nice. I pour water into one until it overflows, and then they overflow into the other ones, and then eventually just the back of the couch is soaked. It's wonderful.
That's such a Canadian thing. I love it.
Yeah, it's a Canadian tradition. Yeah.
You guys and your waterfalls, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
Stop.
We love our waterfalls. Niagara Falls, we have the better side of it, so I mean,
absolutely. Natalie and I went to. I'm sorry.
Said, how have you been, Bob?
Oh, good. I was about to say, Natalie and I went to Niagara Falls, one of our last big trips before the world changed. And you guys definitely have the better side. The whole street that's just like Ripley's Believe It or Not and whatnot. I have such an affection for that kind of like touristy crap. And I got it from my father, who would pull over to see the world's largest ball of string. So yes, Canada wins. You win this one, Canada.
If you love all that stuff, visit Sudbury. I've never been, but they have the big nickel. It's just a huge nickel.
Is that a Canadian nickel, or is it like?
Yeah, Sudbury, Ontario. It's a Canadian nickel, but it's made out of nickel because that's where they mine nickel, I think.
Oh, so it's not like a nickel a coin. Is it just like a piece of nickel, like?
Well, it's a piece of nickel, but it's shaped into a nickel coin.
Oh, that's redundant. Well,
okay.
You call your nickels nickels? You don't call them like Loon Juniors or something? Or
Loon Juniors? No.
I don't know.
Okay, the loony wasn't even the loony until I just discovered this, I think 1987. Because before that, they didn't have a loony on them. They had two guys in a canoe. The loon is the bird. Yeah.
That's very interesting. You know what else is interesting? Getting into trouble. See what I did there? See?
Wonderful segue.
I'm working on it. So yeah, we were talking before the show, and I just love what you were talking about, getting in trouble, losing control, letting go of the reins, if you will, in an improv scene. Tell me more, please.
Sure. Yeah. So I think I do have like control stuff, and I always have. And I feel like it kind of bled into a lot of my work. I was an actor beforehand kind of thing, and I'd like to like have my thing, and I'd give notes to the director, and they hated me for that. It was I had stuff. I had stuff. And you know what? And it doesn't go away. You just learn how to deal with it and how to be a better human. But for the first 5 years that I was improvising, I feel like I was good at a lot of stuff, but I was still very kind of controlling of the stage or of where I was, and I didn't quite know how to go with the flow as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like in 2013, I did. That was kind of the turning point for me when I did Dave Rosowski's Improv is Acting in Toronto, and that was the first of 2 that I had taken with him. And then the whole idea of viewpoints and like kind of letting the energy flow through you and seeing what's there and then working with that. It kind of helped me to have the tools to not control what's happening, but to know how to deal with what's coming at me in a controlled way. So it redirected my control issues, I think, which is all you can really do when you have them.
Yeah, well, I think we all start there, and maybe control for different reasons, whether it's for comfort or it's just the way you were made. You know, if you have that A-type personality, it's hard to let go of that control, and I think part of it too is like how do you develop your comedic voice, and what kind of influence have are you taking in, and is your perception of that influence is the person in control when they're not? Like a strong improviser looks like they're in control and they're freaking out inside, like me trying to remember names in the beginning of this episode. Like it's a smooth transition, and for the audience or the student watching, I think sometimes they misconstrue, like, oh no, we are not in control, we're just riding this wave.
But to be fair, you did make it quite obvious that you weren't in control because you stopped yourself before you said the correct name.
I think I nailed that.
Okay, all right, great. You nailed the name.
It's still a work in progress, Oliver. It's still a work in progress. Okay.
So yeah, there's I feel like there's different ways that people can get into trouble on stage, kind of thing, and allow yourself to get into trouble, which is one of the big things to get over, is allowing yourself to not know where you are exactly. To kind of get out of the narrative that you already have established, if there was one, or to get out of like, this is the kind of scene that I want to have, and it's like, okay, cool, but you're not necessarily going to have it because you're with somebody else on stage,
right,
who may also want to have a type of scene, or who also has a narrative, or just wants to play. And if you don't allow yourself to play, then I don't know, it's kind of forcing them into a scene that they don't want to be in.
Well, I mean, a lot of the fun and a lot of the best moments you'll have on stage is discovery, and having a discovered moment for you, your scene partner, and the audience happen at the same time. That's the magic. That's when we all go, oh shit, where are we going next?
And those are those huge laughs. Those are Absolutely. Those are the ones that everyone sees and like, I want to get laughs like that. Cool, I'm gonna do it. And you could try as many different ways as you want, kind of thing. But unless it comes out of like a moment of inspiration, it's not going to be that laugh.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
because it's situational. And
the situation, because of a point of view that just kind of got away with you because of a reaction that happened before you knew what your character wanted to say.
Yeah.
And that's the one that works for me the most often, is reacting as soon as I hear something that makes me want to react. It's like the first thing that comes out of their mouth, the first thing that they do that gets me, I want to react to that, because then I don't know exactly where I'm going next, but I've already reacted, so I've got to stick to that because the audience already saw it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, what's your favorite way to get into trouble? But if you had something else first, go for it.
Oh, you know what? Sometimes, if anybody's listened to me talk enough, my mouth gets myself in trouble. I like getting ahead of myself, like just a string of consciousness and let it get out there. I mean, I've gotten to the point where it stays in the boundaries of what my character feels. So I have an emotion and I just ramble, and it's a total normal Bob thing, but I just like filter it through the character I'm playing, and
Yeah.
we'll get there. And I just follow the fun, just okay. I guess that's it. I mean, if you look at the green room of Go Comedy, I have a few. We do the thing where if you have a funny line or you have a funny moment, we write it on the green wall. Almost 100% of those is me just saying something or mispronouncing something and just running with it. I'm discovering a new word for the dictionary, if you will, and it's my favorite way to play. Just because I truly believe that is improvising. If you are thinking about what's happening next while you're in the moment, and when you're in that moment, then you're just writing really fast on stage. And that's not the job. The job is to create a character and just, react in that moment and discover what the story is along the way without directing, without writing, just being.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I like that idea
ahead.
of the stream of consciousness kind of, and yeah, you're filtering it through that point of view kind of thing. But yeah, where it's what's coming out of your mouth is coming before your brain has registered what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you have to deal with it. You don't necessarily have to justify it. You just got to deal with it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I like when I say something so messed up, like we all have to take a second, like what just came out. I don't know, but it's canon now. Got to deal with it.
Yeah.
So this, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, man. Just keep on going.
Okay, so this style of play obviously takes some getting used to. Is there anything, or any exercises, or any mantras, or I don't know, anything you had to tell yourself to get over the fear of letting go of the reins? Like, because you said you were improvising for like 5 years before you started letting go. Was it a gradual thing, or is it something you just, hey, this is something, did something click, or is it something you had to gradually do?
I think it was coming from, because one of the things that I grasped onto in the improvised acting course and viewpoints, the tenets of viewpoints, was repetition. I really enjoy repetition. And I mean, like it's in Meisner as well, it's in Clown as well. And it's something that's used in a whole bunch of it's comedy, but just repeating a word or an idea back and forth kind of thing until it becomes something else. Having an inane conversation about cake until you've reached that point where the tension is at a 10, or at least a 7 kind of thing, and then just the real thing comes out, that thing that you're actually talking about comes out, right. The truth. Because, it's about cake, and you can have a lot of fun, arguing about cake, but what's the argument about? And then when that truth comes out, it's always because you've ramped the tension up with that dumb conversation. When it comes out, it has to be truth. And then you just have to deal with that. And obviously not planning ahead for what comes out, but it's like I find that those moments are exciting because not only do you let your words get away with you, like just whatever comes out next, the audience and your partner know that there's so much importance on this it's literally what the rest of the scene was about before you knew that it was about that. That's and so that came out of me using repetition a lot, and what Rosowski calls the Jerry chart, which is ramping up.
I was just about to ask you, the 5 sisters.
Ramping up that tension, that emotion, until you hit the point where there has to be something else. There has to be truth.
And for those of you listening who are not familiar with the Jerry chart, Rosowski has a lot of good YouTube videos about his Jerry method and how to use it and pushing and pulling methods. So definitely check those out. Yeah, because I recognized it as soon as you were started talking about it. And honestly, his workshop, I took it like maybe 4 years ago, was kind of an eye opener about that. There's a difference between argument and having tension. And it was kind of a game changer because I was kind of caught in that thing where I was just adding too hard. Like everything's, oh yeah, this is a great idea. Let's follow this. And it's a fun way to play. I'm not dogging it, but I'm a man who likes variety in his improv. So yeah.
And I'm actually, I still get jealous of improvisers who can do that and make it good.
Right.
Like there's a bunch of some of my favorite improvisers that just kind of are that happiest go lucky people in scenes, and it's the most genuine thing, and it's the most lovely thing to watch as well, and they have so much fun just kind of messing with each other, and it's like, yeah, that's wonderful. I still have trouble doing that sometimes. So there
really,
I mean, just yeah, I like working with tension, and so when we're not working with tension, I am a little less. I feel like I'm a little less, a little more over my head in terms of, I get too much in my head. I think about, oh shit, we're just playing with what? I don't. Yeah, I'm very much a tension improviser more than.
No, I recognize that, but I just assumed with your style that if you were playing with that kind of person, you would take the antagonist approach, where it's like oh yeah, awesome, we're gonna start a dance studio. Can we light the floor on fire? This just adding when you and making it a little more, I don't know, dark, I guess, for lack of a better term.
And see, if I am playing with someone who plays like that, I will do my utmost to play like that. One of the things that at least I used to, I honestly, it's been so long since I've been improvised in person or like on a regular basis, because Los Angeles doesn't have that many opportunities to do that weekly, as opposed to Toronto, where you can get up like 3 times a week and not even book a show. But if I'm playing with someone who plays like that, I try to adapt to how they want to play, and that in the end makes me a better improviser as well, because it's fun to try out different things. If I'm playing with someone, especially someone that I've looked up to for doing that, then I'll definitely try to keep up with that for sure.
Oh yeah. It's like taking a workshop on stage. I love it. Like mirroring someone's style.
Yeah. And another, actually, one of the most effective ways and quick ways to get in trouble that I struggled with for a long time, because I was never that into specifics, because I didn't want to like define anything too early. And I still find that, waiting a little bit to fully define what the scene is about, at least 3 lines in, is great, because it gives you both a chance to kind of brick by brick figure out what the relationship is before you start adding specifics. But adding like super specific things, which is something I took from Annoyance. Susan Messing was super hard on this about getting specifics out. That gives your partner so much to work with. Right. And when you're making up specifics, like when it's from your life kind of thing, that's fine. You might get something wrong even. But if you're making up specifics, sometimes it's just so dumb, but it has to come out so naturally and so quickly that you are going to say something that is ridiculous that you now have to work with or deal with if they react to it in a strong way. It's like, oh no. Well, great. now I'm the guy who, who made candy cane nutcrackers with his mom, and now I've got to figure out how the fuck the candy canes crack nuts. I don't know. And that's an innocent version of anything,
I'd
yeah,
watch that scene. Yeah,
I watch that scene.
I'd watch that scene.
But
Yeah,
forcing yourself to be specific, yeah.
yeah. I think again that comes from like because I'm in the same like again with names and everything. I had to learn like if you name your like just something as simple as naming your scene partner or just nailing the carpet to the floor so no one can pull it out from under you, or you just have to deal with yourself. Is such a great gift, and I think it's another fear-based thing we don't do because I don't want to when I'm in this scene juggling. I want to juggle more information than I need to. I mean that's how I felt. Me personally, that's my reason for not doing it when I was a youngin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that you didn't want to juggle more? You didn't want to juggle more than you
Didn't want it. Yeah, because I wanted to focus. I wanted to listen and focus on what was going on. And honestly, when I was starting, I probably was playing ahead. Like, where could this go? All the rookie mistakes. Yeah.
and I mean names especially though. It's like to name someone on stage, definitely I think one of the more important things because it, especially if you're in some, you can use a name like as going back to repetition. You can use a name to like really drill something in without saying anything except for their name,
Right.
kind of thing. But also if you're in something that you can come back to, like a montage or a herald or something like that, then the name it gives you that thing to latch onto, kind of thing. So I understand. I used to never want to name people as well, or if I did, it would always be something dumb, so that I would try to do it like something like a very unique name, but then I'd
Right.
forget it because it was too unique. Man.
The trick I used to use, if someone had personality traits of someone I knew, I would try to name it after that person, either someone I knew in high school or family member or something. Like, oh, you're being so Uncle Frank right now. I'm gonna call you Frank.
Uh-oh, and that gets you into trouble in different ways.
Yep.
Uncle Frank in the audience, you just didn't know.
Uncle Frank ain't buying a ticket. That's not me at all.
Yeah. Well, or he laughs at me. He's like, "Oh, for sure."
You come down to the bone, like I am like that.
I am like
out.
He leaves the audience a changed man.
Yeah, going home to reflect. Oh, poor Uncle Frank. I'm just talking about names right now. Did you watch the Middleditch and Schwartz Netflix specials?
I watched a couple of them. I haven't seen all of them. No.
I'm just bringing it up because they played an amazing name game. There was a ski lodge scene, and they started off on the whatever that contraption is that brings you up. I've never been skiing. That brings you up the hill. That you sit on lift. Like ski lift. Yeah, that thing. The ski helper. The ski helper. Helps you up the hill.
Oh, I like ski helper though. That would have been good. That's a good specific. Yeah.
Kids, you can use that. Write your scripts, submit them to the Improv Network podcast. But they did a really fun, they were playing different levels. So two characters were on the ski helper, and then they had another character skiing down the hill, and the character mentioned how he was at everybody was waiting at the cabin for him. It was like, there's like 7 of us waiting at the cabin, and Schwartz is like, oh yeah, name them. And he had to name all these characters who happen to have like stereotypical Italian names. So they get to the cabin, and then Schwartz had to play all these characters, and it's such a great moment. And it comes from just like, hey, I got these characters, name them, and he had to do it, and it's amazing. It's like that thing, like so going back to what you're saying, being specific can be a really great gift that you give yourself, or that you can use to get your scene partner into trouble when they mention it.
Yeah, yeah, remembering 7 names that are just rattled off by your partner is a
Yeah.
nightmare for me.
Oh, me too.
Oh man. Yeah, and funnily enough, I do prefer when it comes to like endowing uh, in a very fun or aggressive way. What we used to call pimping and don't really have a better word for right now.
Right.
I like to do it. I like to do it to myself more
Yeah.
than because it's like, yeah, it's that old once again annoyance thing. It's like take care of yourself. It's like all right, cool. In which case, I'm gonna get myself into trouble. uh, you can come along with me. You can get yourself into trouble. But especially if it's someone that I'm not used to working with. Um, if it's someone that I'm used to working with, then I have no problem because I know exactly. But if it's someone that I'm not used to working with, it's like I'd much rather get myself in trouble and we can deal with it
Right.
together than put you in a position where you're like getting in your head about oh shit, what am I supposed to do with I I don't know how to rap and if I do, is it
Oh,
offensive? It's
right. I think that's the only
um,
thing I'd be afraid of, like accidentally saying something that you were unaware of is offensive, or
yeah,
which is, I always go back to like I call it the dinner party rule, like you know, act as if like you don't take care of everybody at the party because no one wants to hear you say something inappropriate, you know.
yeah. And when it comes to yeah, because there is that type of getting in trouble as well, where it's like, and that's kind of an idiot thing. We were talking about
Oh
idiot
yeah,
work a little bit before this, where it's making the audience uncomfortable, but like just enough that you can get them back with
yeah,
by repeating something from before, or like, uh, it's like not walking that line between comfort and discomfort. And I think there are many ways that you could go too far right away, kind of thing. Like there's things that you don't you don't say in anywhere, but
right.
especially not in front of an audience, because you will lose them right away.
Oh, absolutely.
And so when it comes to getting in trouble, it's like, well, don't get yourself in trouble that way.
Yeah,
There are
yeah,
reasons for control issues, and you get to choose when not you use them. um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so if something like that comes up, you could lean into it and be creative about how you are, this, whether it's
yeah,
being, racist, misogynist, like how can you lean into that without losing, without disappointing
right.
yourself, without disappointing your people, partners on stage, and without disappointing the audience? How can you
Absolutely.
lean into those characters without losing everyone, and you just standing on stage being like, I hate that I'm doing this right now?
Yeah.
Um, or you can address it and move on because the scene doesn't have to be about that.
Oh,
you can
absolutely,
choose,
absolutely. Yeah,
you can choose to do something even more ridiculous, and then the scene becomes about that. There are
yeah,
many ways around doing that, especially when you're with on a troupe or in a team that is not prepared to handle that. If you're on an all male
yeah.
team and misogyny comes up, it's like, is this really the troupe that the audience
Yes,
wants to see deal
yes.
with this issue? you know?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I like what you said because there's that whole playing to the height of your intelligence and almost making a comment about what kind of character says those kind of things, like an Archie Bunker type way of doing it, or like
Yeah.
Jill Bernard told us a story. She does her one woman show, Drum Machine, and at the beginning of the show, she interviews someone who, and during one of her shows, and she uses the interview as as a get to do her scenes or do the whole show, and the person becomes a character within that show. And the person she happened to be interviewing that night did American Sign Language, and she's like, you know what? I could do the bullshit sign language stuff we do as we're kids because we don't know any better, or I could do it respectful. So before she started anything, she's like, "Hey, I just want to address this. Just so you don't have any false expectations. I only know one word in sign language, and it's thank you. So all the sign language you're going to see tonight is just going to be done as thank you, and I thank you for your get." And then that's every time she did sign language, that's all she did, and it's legit. It's a totally respectful way of doing it. It's a smart way of doing it. And you know what? People are relaxed and they can accept that because they probably would rather see that than someone trying to do improvised sign language, which may or may not be offensive.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, and that comes with setting expectations and framing what you're going to be doing.
Right.
Did you say that she like pulled the audience member up and was improvising with that person? Or
no,
just
as
that person.
She does that character. She interviews that character. Yeah. Oh, that'd be kind of cool. She could do it. I mean, she could improvise with anybody. She's amazing, but I don't think that's.
I'm sure. As do it. Tara, what's her name? What's her last name?
Ask me about names.
Oh, yeah, but she was at. I remember at Diff. It was Tara. It starts with a D, and she had all.
Francisco. I'm mispronouncing.
Tara DeFrancisco. Yeah.
Thank you.
Where she was
slaughtered it.
It was like how great was that to just and what a wonderful way to get yourself in trouble as well. Where a headlining set. This is a 30-minute set at Diff, and she had everyone who wanted to play put their ID into a box, and then she just reached in and grabbed one. It's like there's no way to tell what's going to happen.
That's awesome.
And yeah, you're playing with someone who you not only don't know, you don't know the sensibilities of, you don't know what they're going to say. And if you're going to have to deal with something, that is very uncomfortable coming out because they're in front of an audience every day. They don't know what will shut down, will shut down the hearts of men and women. Yeah. That was a wonderful show, though, because everyone knew. She set it up. She framed it as whatever this person does today, they are the hero, and I love that. It was one of my favorite framings of a show, and setting of expectations. So, because she was like, I'm the old man improv, like I'm the master on stage here. This person may or may not have any idea what they're doing. So whatever they do, they are the hero. If this show sucks, that's on me. And I took so much away from watching that show. That was really wonderful. And it was awesome. It was awesome.
Okay.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to put words in your mouth. So would you consider when we learn to improvise, we learn rules? And we kind of set, and when we discover our voice, we kind of have an expectation and how we think an improv set should go, how we should perform within it, what we should do as a troupe mate and as a performer. So getting yourself in trouble, and this is generally speaking, is inserting elements into the set that disrupt those.
Okay.
Okay.
Or
how would you frame disrupt our paradigms as to what we're supposed to be doing?
I think that, well, I mean, there's learning when to, because I mean, the rules obviously are guidelines. There's no rules to improv and so forth, and you can do whatever the heck you want. The rules are there to instill good habits that tend to make improv scenes better, or at least in the style that work best in the style that the school teaches, and having those tools and learning when you can mess with them. Yeah. One sec. Say it again. Say it again how you said it.
Oh my God.
Say it again how you said it, because I'm getting lost. I'm getting
when we learn how to improvise, we take the classes, we learn rules, we learn we kind of learn our own comedic voice as well and apply that to whatever style that we want to do on stage. So we almost create paradigms. So by getting yourself in trouble is implementing things that disrupt that paradigm that we have while we're on stage, and almost putting you into a fight or flight type.
Sure, that makes sense, because if you're getting yourself into trouble, you're breaking yourself out of your comfort zone.
Excellent.
And so, whatever preconceived notions we have about what a scene should be about, or about what we want the scene to be, or about what we think the audience wants to see, kind of letting ourselves get to a point where it's like, oh no, are we still doing that? Whatever. Let's go with what this is now. I say that. I'd say that's a good way to put that.
All right, cool.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Cool. Chris Farley, dude. Remember that time you were at Diff? That was cool. We have a couple people who want to do some shout outs. Kurt says this is his favorite show. He says that about every show. Yeah, it was that Hot Looney Jr. talk that really got him in the beginning.
For sure.
And Tom Schultz, Oliver's point about repetition makes me think about Miser's exercise of saying the same word over and over again, where the word evolutions with different tone evolves. Yeah.
Definitely a Meisner thing as well. I've never taken a Meisner course, so I only know from what's it called? Anecdote, I guess, that it's the same, but it's it's, especially with somebody's name kind of thing, you can get, what I like about repetition is that you can, at the beginning of a scene, like solidify exactly how you feel and the intricacies of how you feel about somebody and the situation and what they just said, or simply by saying their name over and over and over again, but having a full conversation. Like the whole first beat of a scene could just you be saying somebody's name, and then you know exactly how you feel about each other. So then what comes out in words, the audience already has figured out what's happening. So what comes out in words, then they're entirely validated in what they already think. Or it surprises them because what you saw might be a little bit different from what they saw. But yes, to have the scene evolve, to have the whole first beat of the scene, to have even a whole scene with just like one or two words.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
It's very Malkovich.
Malkovich? John Malkovich?
Yeah, you ever seen John Malkovich?
I have.
So there's
I don't recall that particular scene.
Okay, so in being John Malkovich, there is a tunnel that you can crawl into, and you become John Malkovich for a couple hours until you get spit out. There's a point at the very end of the movie where he climbs into himself, and then he sees a whole world, and every character in it is John Malkovich, and all I can say is the word Malkovich. But you absolutely know what they're talking. It's not gibberish because Malkovich is the last name, but it's very, it's fun. It's a fun scene.
All right. Totally the culmination, the big point of that movie. Oh yeah, I don't remember it. I don't know. To be fair, I've only seen it once, and it was years ago. Okay.
Okay. Wow. No.
I gotta watch more Being John Malkovich. I've got to get more in touch with my Steppenwolf people for sure. More Gary Sinise. He's Steppenwolf too, I think. Yeah, I don't know. But in terms of speaking of actors with scripts, that's something that I love doing as well. Hey, Peter, how's it going? Yeah. Something that I love doing as well is when it comes to scripts and marking out beats and figuring out what those beats are, is to, even though the scene is about one thing and trying to get one thing, or like or two people trying to get something, and then they clash, and then that's kind of like how scenes are written.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, I want the book. Oh, but I need this book to save my grandmother. It's like, no, but I need that book. I don't know, whatever. And then, it's like, so, and one person either gets what they want at the end of the scene, or one person doesn't, and it either goes on or they don't get it
Right.
definitively. Whatever. But that's what the writer's for, is to write that. That's what the director's for, is to make sure that happens in the scene. But for the actor, put roadblocks so that you aren't just a cog in the scene, because they are going to make sure that all happens, especially on film stuff. They're going to make, like, the editor's going to make sure that all happens.
Right.
But what you can do to make yourself interesting is get lost a little bit in what you're saying. Put importance on in weird places, in terms of your actions and like how you're doing it and what you're trying to get. Just give yourself variety in that, so that you can kind of get lost a little bit and have to bring yourself back. It's a way of getting yourself in trouble with a script. So that then the audience, especially on camera, when they can see all your eye movements and your facial stuff, that, in my opinion, is what we believe good actors are. They don't only contribute to what the scene is trying to do, or what the whole story is trying to do. They can keep track of that, obviously, but within a single scene, it's like, have your own wants and weird kind of ways of getting it that aren't necessarily cohesive with the storyline, and that just adds a different layer to it, because everyone else is taking care of the rest of it. Anyway,
and I find wants so interesting, because some wants are so obvious, and I think it's always strong to give your character a want, but something we don't talk about enough is the why we want the want. So you have I want a cigarette. It is the one that I always hear in the workshops. I want a cigarette. Why do you want a cigarette? Oh, because it's a device to deliver nicotine. Well, why do you want nicotine? Because that's how I cope with my feelings. Or why are you feeling this way? And then you keep on going. You learn a little bit.
If you ask for a cigarette, you're like, I want a cigarette. It's like, there's always some sort of stimulus. Now,
yes.
There's a reason that you said that. Whether or not your character, or in real life, whether or not that person realizes why that want just came up, it's like, no, something, whether it's just sitting at your desk and being bored because you've got too much, to work on, and you're like, oh shit, before I get to this, I've got to have a cigarette. Like, there's always some sort of stimulus. So yes, I love that. Dive into why you want it. Yeah.
Cool. Switching gears just a little bit.
Sorry.
Have you ever been part of a group, as a group mind, or as just a troupe, that like, hey, we're all going to get ourselves into trouble, and maybe find that trouble try to discover at the same time?
Well, I've been in groups that where it was just all getting into trouble, and that was,
I love how you rubbed your hands into that, like, we all got
and it was like, so much so that it was because we were all getting into our own forms of trouble. It wasn't like a group trouble. At least from my point of view, kind of thing, it was kind of a messy trouble. So it just turned into a really messy set. And I think we had a lot of those. But also, and that's just because I feel like a couple of people on the team would constantly get into trouble. So if anyone else tried anything like that, then we would all just be, tossing out randomness, or if not randomness, then just kind of like getting to places where it's hard for us to deal with that again. Because I'm talking about Calvin Ball. You know Calvin Ball.
Yes.
We had some real not pirates. I think I was a pirate, and as well as sometimes a robot. But we had a lot of people just kind of going out and doing the most fun thing that they could think of, and me being on the sidelines, like, how are we going to make this work? Or me going out and taking over a scene because I was like, this is too wild. We need some context, and it didn't always work out because, again, you can't be the person that fixes things when they're out of control. Sometimes you just have to go with it. And so that was as much my control problem as it was everyone at once deciding that this is just going to be a wacky ass set. And so some great shows came out of that. We had some amazing shows, but also it's like the shows that I don't have up on the internet are the ones that were just a little bit too wild for me.
The shows I only show at parties.
Yeah, not even. No, those are the ones that I don't watch. Those are, yeah. But yeah, so there are times when I think grabbing the reins is a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, there's got to be balance.
Yeah, there's always got to be balance.
Always got to be balance. So when you are coaching or teaching, are there exercises to push people out of their comfort zone, to almost force them to discover their own trouble? And are there exercises to teach people, like, hey, you're always in trouble. Here are the reins. Like, it's how do you teach the balance, I guess, is what I'm asking.
So in my opinion, depending on whether or not somebody needs control or whether or not somebody needs to let go of control, having the tools will give them the tools that they need. Having the tools for both, kind of thing, especially when it comes to once again, viewpoints and the whole kinesthetic reaction. That's the one. That's the tenet. There's seven tenets of viewpoints.
That's a word right there. Yeah.
Kinesthetic reaction. That is my favorite one for getting people out of their heads and letting them not plan.
Really quick,
because
I'm sorry. Can we explain what that is? Like what the
kinesthetic reaction? It would be like another word for impulse, but in your body. So the movement that your body automatically wants to make, whether it's there's the exercise of you can only walk in straight lines, kind of thing. So you have to channel all that through that. But in a regular scene, it could be, like where you're about to grasp your pearls. It could be like just your face reaction. It could be stepping away. It could be turning your whole body. It could be just a flinch. Just it's like when you do this to somebody and they go, that's a kinesthetic reaction. So letting the kinesthetic reaction come first.
Right.
And then, and I think I talked about this in the last one that I was on as well, when it was still FAQ. Sorry. Oh. But reacting to either a word or like a sentence that somebody has said, reacting to a movement, reacting to a gesture, reacting to that physically first. So letting yourself react physically, and then through that physicality, figuring out how you feel, because then that shape that you're taking into account, like the shape of you, where you're at, and kind of and your face, and oh, what is this emotion? This emotion is taken aback. And then once you've registered that emotion, then what are you going to say? Because now through your first kinesthetic reaction, then emotional reaction, now verbal reaction, you had no idea what you were going to do until you got to this position, until this happened and you registered what was happening. You had zero idea what was happening, what you were going to say until you got here. So it's an absolute freedom, but at the same time, you have the tools and you're kind of like in control of that process. So it gives you control while at the same time putting you into a place where you didn't expect to be.
Which is
That's my favorite.
I'm with you. Which is like a natural way to play, because as humans, that's what we do. You know, you walk into the house, you smell something burning. What is it? What is this? You know, like you will have a natural knee jerk reaction. The words are always going to be the first thing you do because you didn't expect this. It's discovery. Going back to what we were talking about before, and it's really cool. Wazowski had a really cool exercise where it was two people on stage sitting in chairs, and they were supposed to be absolutely, you know, you find your, I think it's been 4 years. I think you call it you're just your neutral spot or your zero. You just, you know, and then you just look at each other, look at the other person. And I believe the person A asked for something, and no matter what it is, person B had to say no. And you slowly built. And they kept on asking for the same thing. So, for example, if it was a child, it's 7 a.m. Mom, can I have some ice cream for breakfast? No. And you kept on going back and forth, and you don't really change what you're asking for because that's the character A's want. You might add a little bit more. Like, I was really good last night. I went to bed on time. May I please have some ice cream for dinner? And you're supposed to stay neutral until they say something, you know, person B is supposed to stay neutral until they say something that gives you a knee, you know, that jerk reaction.
It gets them.
Gets them. Yeah. And then that's when you kind of switch gears, but you don't want to drop the person A still wants ice cream. So you don't want to drop that. But now person B is playing from a different space, and it really went into some really cool, and I would like interesting characters, but in scenes that were relatable, but the push and pull tensions there. I believe there's a video. I want to say the title of it is Wazowski, and the name of the scene is Hot Cross Buns. Are you familiar with this one?
Hot Cross Buns, potentially.
Yeah, it's him and a female improviser in a car, and they set up 2 cameras, and it's all improvised. And you watch the push and pull tension until, like, it's a really good example of that one.
I forget her name, and I hate that I forget her name. But there's also one where it's they're on a plane, and she keeps on bugging him, and he's trying to sleep. But I know exactly who you're talking about. And I hate that I forget her name.
Names. I already established, and I'm a horrible person, and I hate it.
So yes, that's I actually never did that exercise with him, but I love that exercise. And the one he did with us was I call it alignment because he never gave names to it, but it's where you're either in response to yourself, you're in response to the other person, or if there's a third person, you could be in response to that person. And so it's your body orientation tells you who you're in response to. So it's basically who has got you, like whose words you're actually responding to, as opposed to like in a 3-person or 4-person scene, just kind of responding to everyone and not quite knowing what the scene's about, figuring out who has your attention and who you are. Like, you could be talking in 3rd person about somebody who's in the room. You know, that's always, they always say, have that in movies, like, I'm right here. But it's like, no, they're not talking to you, because who they need to get something across to, who they need something from, whether it's validation or an answer or just a physical thing, is this person. So that's who they're in response to. So that's the one that we did in terms of what you were just saying, when you feel like you've been gotten.
Yes.
when you've got that reaction. But yeah, I love that.
Cool.
Do I have time to go into one more thing that I like to do scripted wise?
James not here. I'm in control of all the buttons. So if you want, man, you're my guest. If you want to talk about something else, I'm having a good time. So yes, please.
Okay. So scripted wise, and you can use this in improv as well. One way that I like to lose control a little bit is to figure out what word, especially in a monologue where you're responding to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing for everything that we've just been talking about. The sentence, the last person that you respond to is always yourself.
Right.
So you can hear something, but again, it's like you're listening to that kinesthetic reaction, to that emotion, and then speaking. So the last person you always listen to is yourself. But listening to the word in the previous sentence that inspires the next sentence. Why are you saying this next sentence? And in a monologue, you're responding to yourself. So I could be saying, yeah, I went to my mom's the other day and she had some excellent crock pot, like the stew kind of thing. And so out of that, what's the next thing that I'd say? And I mean, she's a wonderful cook. And so from that, I'd take, I was probably listening to the word crock pot.
Right.
Because crock pot to me is something that anyone can use. You just toss a bunch of stuff in it and anyone can make something good. But it's like, so I had to validate her cooking because I said the word crock pot. It was like, and so listening to the, choosing which word in a script you are actually responding to with the next sentence. And in that way, that'll remind you of what your next sentence is, because when it comes up, you're like, oh yeah, crock pot. Now I have to validate her. But also it changes the way you say it every time you say it, because it's like improvising just with words, already set up for you.
Improvising just with words. I love that. Yes. It kind of reminds me of something another exercise I enjoy, or honestly, I would call it like more of a trick, for lack of better terms.
Ooh.
When you initiate, start off with a strong, it doesn't have to be strong, but pay attention to what your first sentence is, like just like what you were doing there. And if the scene or your character within the scene ever gets in the weeds, you can always repeat that. And you don't have to repeat the same sentence in the same tone, but have that sentence reflect, in the tone you're currently feeling as a character. And it kind of resets you. And it's a great way to, so if you do get yourself in trouble, there's your way of getting out of it.
Yeah. Just bring back something from the beginning. A touchstone. That's a touchstone. Yeah.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And wherever you went, it's then it turns into that whole cloverleaf pattern, and it allows you to get away because you can always come back to that one point. And then it kind of broadens your circle for the next time you get away. It's good.
I love that. Well, my friend, it's been a pleasure talking to you as always. Thank you so much for coming out over Zoom.
Coming out over Zoom. Thanks so much for having me, man. I always enjoy these.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for paying attention, and we'll be back. Well, actually, we're going to be doing a live show tomorrow night. Come check that out. However, I'm so sorry. I should have asked you before we started recording. Is there anything you would like to plug before we go?
Sure. I'm actually doing a scene. Bree Watson, Toronto improviser, is doing one scene per day of January, and I think she's going into February too. But I'm doing that scene today at 7 p.m. Eastern on Bree Watson's Facebook page. So look that up. She'll be live streaming. And I'll also be in Snow Day on the 17th in the 1 p.m. block. So come, spend the money on that, because that's all that money is going to Gilda's Club Detroit.
Yes.
And in support of butt cancer. Sorry, can I say that? It's fine.
Yeah. We've said it plenty of times during this.
Yeah. And I'll be performing with as of yet, I'll be performing with Laura Johnson. We'll be doing a soda set, which will be exciting because it's been a very long time since I've been on stage with her, and I'm excited.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. And thank you for coming out for that. That's awesome. You know what? Send me the link and I'll post it under this, and so people can find it easier. So definitely check that out, folks. Thank you again, Oliver. Thank you, everybody. This has been the Improv Network Podcast. Have a good week. Oh, have a good 24 hours. Bye.